Let's have a very high level technical analysis of Ger40, and as you guys can see at this point in time, we find ourselves on the weekly chart. Before we get into the actual technical analysis, I just wanted to mention that it has now been announced that Germany is in a technical recession, and for the most part this has been as a result of issues within manufacturing, very high energy costs, as well as a disappointing China reopening. So what this means is that not only will this recession have an effect on Germany, but it'll have an effect on all the European countries that fall within the European Union. To those of you who aren't exactly sure as to what the Eurozone is, essentially what it is all the countries, or rather all the European countries that use the euro. And as you guys know, Germany is the biggest economy within that region. And as I said, it'll have an effect on the rest of the players within that region. So without wasting time, guys, let's look at the actual chart. And as I said, this is a very high level analysis, as we will only be looking at the weekly chart and try to determine in terms of where the price will head to next, right? So here we are, guys, as I said, on the weekly chart. And on the weekly chart, guys, we can see that price had reached this very strong level of resistance, as you guys can see, and we had multiple rejections within that level. And what happened next is that we saw price actually giving us what is a double top, and it took place over here, which had a neckline at that level. And what happened next is that we saw price at this point break into the bottom side of that neckline, and then going back to the neckline to just test it out. Unfortunately, however, the neckline was not really able to hold price, and we actually saw the market push through that neckline and continue to move further up. The question at this point in time becomes, why did price, or why did the market continue to move further up to around that level? The reason is that, remember, guys, the market was at a very strong level of resistance at this point, right? And you guys know that also whenever we have these M structures, such as we had over here, what normally happens, as I always say, is that a lot of traders and investors sell on that second leg of that double top, and they place their stop losses just above. So the reason why price, after breaking to the bottom side of the neckline, coming back to the neckline to test it, failed to actually bounce off of the neckline and push further down, is because there was too much money in the form of stop losses just above that M structure, which is over here, right? Hence, we saw the market continue to move further up to grab all of those stop losses, right? So, as I said, Germany is now in a technical recession, and I believe that what's going to happen next is we are going to see price actually from around this level move further down to around this area over here, right? So that's what I expect. Why do I say that area? That is because this area over here is also a very strong level of support at this point in time. To add to this, you would also see that we had a huge multi-session double bottom over here, which had a neckline at that point. And at this point over here, we saw price actually break into the upside of that neckline, and then coming back to the neckline to give it a test. And at the neckline is where we saw the market move further up. So as I said, this very, or rather this level over here, is a very strong level of support, and in as far as I'm concerned, I expect price long term from where it is to move further down to around this level. The last thing that I also want to point out is that where we had this neckline over here is now also a very strong level of resistance at this point in time, as we had multiple rejections in and around that area. Hence, I say that for the most part, I expect price from around this level to move further down to around that level to complete this movement, which is, or rather, which would end where we have the neckline of this huge double bottom, and this is also the neckline of the W structure.